Zindagi Matters, where life meets hope. A mental health podcast by Swayam Foundation.
Welcome to another episode of Zindagi Matters, podcast where we have honest and meaningful conversations about mental health, resilience and healing. I'm Geeta Lal Sahai, your host, and today we are going to talk about a topic that is often hidden in silence: domestic violence. It is a painful reality for many, yet so many survivors struggle to find their voice, their strength, and their way back to healing. Our guest today is a brave survivor who has chosen to share her journey with us. She lived through the darkness of abuse and emerged stronger. For quite some time she lived in that abuse, and today she has emerged stronger. She'll be talking about her experience, the impact it had on her mental health, and most importantly, how she reclaimed her life. This episode is obviously not just about the pain. It is about survival and hope. And if you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please remember you are not alone. Help is available. So let's begin today's topic, today's discussion. Welcome to Zindagi Matters, Nimisha Unnikrishnan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Geeta ma'am. I'm so glad to be here today.
So Nimisha, tell me, it was a love marriage, right?
Yes, it was.
So share about something about that life, and then when you got married, how did it change?
Yes. So, it was a love marriage. We dated for a year before getting married. And during that 1 year period that we had, the dating phase, obviously because we didn't live together, there was hardly anything that I could know about him apart from, the casual conversations that we used to have at a cafe or at a restaurant, at a mall, at a movie theater, etc., etc. But, those conversations were highly intellectual in nature because we used to talk a lot about politics, about atheism, about football, and they were all very meaningful and intellectual conversations that we used to have. And not even once during those conversations did I feel that, this man is not someone who, who will do this. After marriage, things drastically changed. I could see a totally different version of him altogether, where he became more aggressive. Whatever he was before marriage, there was a total 360-degree shift in him, in terms of his appearance, in terms
After how many months of marriage?
Exactly after 4 months, to be very precise. So we got married in the month of December. It was December 2015 when we got married. And from April 2016, I could see drastic changes in him in terms of his behavior, in terms of his attitude, in terms of his perspective towards life. Everything had a complete shift since April. So, this was the before and the after.
When you say shift in his attitude, so
Yeah.
what do you mean by that, Nimisha?
When I say shift in his attitude, he became very aggressive after marriage. He became very violent. He used to beat me up for silliest of the silliest reasons. And Because obviously before marriage we never lived together. We used to have minor fights over phone or over chats, um, but he never raised his hand before marriage. But after marriage, the first time that he raised his hand on me was in April 2016, exactly 4 months after our marriage.
So, and what was the reason for it?
So the reason was I mean, we had gone out to one of our friends' birthday parties, and after the party, when we were returning home, um, we were just talking and walking, and then I obviously, he was too much into um, drinking, smoking up as well. So I stopped him from smoking up. While we were coming back from the party. And he didn't listen to me, but he continued to do it. And when I stopped him, that triggered him. So he started punching me on my face, and we were living at a rented apartment then. And our landlords used to live right adjacent to our apartment. So, this happened late in the night while we were back from the party, and he started beating me up badly when I told him not to smoke up. And there was a lot of commotion because I started crying, and that was the first time ever that someone had raised their hands on me. Because in my entire, I was 26 years old then, and in my entire 26 years of life, even my parents had never raised their hands on me, even as a child. So it was very difficult for me to digest that I was being beaten up so brutally. So it was very difficult for me, and because the landlords stayed right next to us and I was crying badly, they heard the noise and then they called us up, they turned on the lights, they asked me if everything is okay. And I'm a person who wouldn't want to betray someone or throw someone under the bus. So when obviously the landlord came in and asked, called me up and asked if are you okay? What is happening? We are hearing noises. I said, it's completely fine. That was the first instance of abuse that I had to undergo.
So what was your immediate, what did you feel inside you? Like the world has changed completely, as you said, 360 degrees. So
Yes.
what was your reaction to it? Like, did you take any decision about it? Or how could you do that? Or there was some anger in you and hatred towards him, or just that it happened and you tried to pacify it because you loved him so much? So what was your immediate inside feelings?
Yeah. So I would say it was a mixture of different feelings. First of all, I felt bad for myself that I am subjected to this. So I was feeling very helpless. I was thinking of different ways in which I could calm the situation down, calm him down, because I didn't want to be beaten up again. So I was thinking of all ways, what could I do to get the situation better? What could I do to, not aggravate the situation? So that was the first thought that I had in my mind. The second one was, the feeling. I never got a feeling of hatred towards him at the very first instance, because, he was very manipulative in nature. So the way he used to play around with words, the way he used to turn the situation around, he used to make me feel that I am the culprit, that I am the one who is triggering him to do this. If I wouldn't have said this, he wouldn't have done this. So,
It was a sort of gaslighting.
Yes, it was. So he used to make me feel that, it's because of you. It's because of you that I had to raise my hand on you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ever done that. Why couldn't you just let me go? Why couldn't you just ignore the situation? so that the way he would play around with words, after a certain point of time I used to think, okay, it's I am at fault, I am to be blamed, it's because of me, I have some problem in me, because of which he is raising his hands, or he is being aggressive. So I had a feeling of helplessness in me, that how can I come out of this? Or if it's my fault, how can I better myself? What can I do right to not trigger him?
Typical example of a person who is gaslighting the other person, the
Yeah.
partner, and the partner feels like that only.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And how long did it continue, Nimisha? Like, for how many years or months did you continue? Because I'm sure this first was not the last time.
No, it
So,
wasn't. So
so
it
how
continued.
long did you continue to bear it?
So we were together for around 6.5 years, six and a half,
Mm-hmm.
round about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Sometimes, so I wouldn't say that it was something that happened every day, but at least in a month, at least 5 or 7 instances would be there where he would physically abuse or verbally abuse. Sometimes it will be all happy, happy, but sometimes it would be exactly the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I stuck to it for around 6.5, 7 years. And then after 7 years of being subjected to this, I decided that I must now move out. This is the end of it. I
Why
cannot.
did you decide that? And for 6 years, when you were there, 6.5 to 7 years, you were
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
and bearing all this, tolerating all this. So,
Yeah.
what was your parents' reaction? Did they come to know of it, or you did not tell them?
See, the very first instance itself, my parents came to know because during that time, I was working with my father. He runs his own business. So I was helping him out in his business, and I used to go to work every day. Now, when uh, and obviously when I was beaten up after the first time when I was beaten up, I had bruises around my eyes, and I couldn't have gone to work with those bruises because people would easily make out that I was being punched.
Hmm.
So I couldn't have gone, so I had to skip work.
Hmm.
Um, I then told my father and my mom as well that I won't be able to come to work because, I'm not keeping well, I'm having loose motions, this and that. I gave them all stupid reasons so
Hmm.
that I have some reason to not be at work. So I
Hmm.
could manage for 2 days. After 2 days, my mother got worried, and then she told me, if you're not keeping well, why don't you come and stay with us?
Hmm.
They used to stay just half an hour, 45 minutes away from where we were staying then.
Hmm.
So she told me, if you're not keeping well, why are you staying there alone? Come to us, we'll take care. And I couldn't have still gone there. So I said, no, it's okay, we'll manage over here. And they somehow felt something was fishy. And then my parents decided to, make a sudden appearance at our rented apartment without letting us know. So surprisingly, both of them appeared before us in front of our door. When they saw my face, they were shocked because they could see the bruises around my eyes, and clearly those bruises looked to be punch marks.
Hmm.
So my father could immediately make out, and then, like I said before, I am not someone who would throw others under the bus. So when my father confronted us, I didn't want to throw him under the bus. So I said, we had already decided what to tell my parents. So when my dad asked me what happened, what is this? We already had the story in place. So I said, when I was coming out of the bathroom, I just slipped, and then my head hit on the kitchen platform, and that's how the bruises came. Obviously, my father didn't believe it then, but also because I wasn't telling him anything as to what exactly had happened, he also couldn't have done anything much. But before leaving, my father very clearly told him that, if it is something done by you, um, I am not going to leave you alone. And if you continue to do this again, I'll ensure that your life will be ruined forever. These were the words that my father told him before leaving the house. And although I always wanted to show my happy face to others, they always knew that there was something happening. She is always being beaten up. She is always under him, under his influence, under his control. My parents, always knew this. In fact, one time he also had slapped me in front of my parents at my parents' place.
Oh.
Yeah, so this happened during the lockdown phase when we had to move to my parents' house during the lockdown. And for some reason, I was working from home then. I had quit from my dad's company and joined another private organization. And I had my work from home going on during the lockdown phase. And he started telling me, so we had our baby then, and she was around 2 years. She was around 1.5, 2 years old at that time. And then he started telling me, so she was crying, and all of us were at home. He was there. He had nothing to do. He was unemployed all through the years that we were together. But I'll come back.
Sorry,
Yeah,
so you were supporting him.
I was doing it.
And what are your qualifications before we move on?
So
What is the job professionally?
Yes. So educationally, I have done my engineering in electricals and electronics. So my dad runs an electrical business, which is why I contributed in the business for the first 2 years after completing my engineering. And after that, I decided to, change my line of career because I didn't find engineering to be that fascinating. So I decided to do something in the related to education, related to learning and development. And that's how I picked up teaching as a career, training as a career. So during the lockdown phase, I was working with a startup company as a trainer cum content creator. So during the lockdown phase, obviously I was working from home and everyone was at home. So my daughter was crying for some reason, or she was hungry. I don't remember exactly what, but he started telling me, shut down your laptop and go and take care of her. I said, I have my sessions going on. I cannot just shut the laptop down and go and take care of her. During my working hours, if I am taking a session, there are 3 other people in the house who can take care of her, including the child's own father. So, who was doing nothing. So I told him, you can also do this. It's not necessary that I have to do it. You can clearly see that I am working. So I cannot do this. And I am the only earning member in our nuclear family. So I cannot risk my job, especially during the lockdown phase when people were losing jobs, when people were on pay cuts. I couldn't have risked because we couldn't afford a pay cut with the minimal amount of salary that I was drawing then. So, and then for that reason, because I back answered him, he slapped me in my room. And my parents were in the other room, and my mom or my dad was passing by. And my mom was passing by and she saw him slapping me. And then my mom told my dad, and my dad came in, and then they had a fight. And then my dad had to ask him to leave the house and go.
So did he go? Did he not?
He did. He had no other option. My dad forced him to leave the house. So he had to go. Then, so he went back to our rented apartment, and from there he went back to Kerala.
So how did you join him then? Again, you went back to him, right?
Yes. He came begging for my forgiveness, asking me to come back to him. He created a whole drama at my house, outside my house, crying, telling me that he'll take care of me like a delicate flower. He won't even hurt me with his finger. A lot of things were promised, and then I told my parents, because I saw him crying and he fell down on my feet. My heart also melted a bit, and then I told my parents, I'm feeling bad, and I think he'll change now. So every time he used to do this, I used to give him a second chance that maybe this could be a turning point. This could be, the point where he changes himself. Many a times my parents also had to forgive them, although they didn't do it willingly. They had to forgive him because I used to tell them, I'm not going to leave him. So, can you just compromise for me? So because of the love and I'm the only child of my parents. So because of the love that they had for me, they also used to compromise to a certain extent. And he, created this whole drama outside my house. I then decided to forgive him and go back to the rented apartment. So we were at the rented apartment. We were living at the rented apartment then, which was around 10 minutes walking distance from my parents' place, because we moved to a different rented apartment later after having our baby. Which was around 10 minutes walking distance from my parents' place. Lockdown was a testing period for me because, like I said before, he used to smoke up. And whatever little I was earning, because I still remember back then, I was earning around 20,000 rupees. That was my salary. And whatever additional I used to get was just incentives. Because I used to do some sales, conversions also at my company then. So for every conversion, I used to get a certain percentage as commission. So within this 20,000 rupees, I still remember 13,000 rupees was the rent towards the apartment where we were staying. 4,825 rupees was the bike EMI. He wanted to buy an expensive Royal Enfield bike, which was costing around 1,92,000 rupees. And we purchased it. And obviously there was EMI which was getting deducted every month. So I was the one paying for it. So 13,000 rent plus 4,825 rupees of bike EMI. Whatever little was left, I had to manage all the household expenses within that amount. Whatever little was left, he used to use that money for get weed and smoke up the entire day. And then slowly it started affecting him mentally in a way that he started showing signs of being a schizophrenic. He used to blabber. He used to talk all nonsense. He used to accuse people of wrong things. And so much that, an incident that I remember was my daughter was with my parents for 2 days. So because we stay close by, we used to go there. I used to take my daughter there, or that used to happen frequently. So my daughter was staying with them for 2 days, and both of us were alone at home. And one fine day when he gets up in the morning, he tells me that I am the avatar of Lord Vishnu. You have to worship me. And he, stands in the pose of he poses like Lord Vishnu, and he tells me to get down on his feet and lick his feet. And when I refused doing so, he told me, you do not believe in God. You do not listen to what I say. That's why bad things always happen with you. So you better do what I ask you to do. and he forced me, he pushed my head down and he made me lick his feet.
Oh my God. Hmm.
And that was when I thought this is the end. This is the end in the sense, maybe I'm going to die today, because he was behaving very, very differently, and it was very difficult for me to handle the situation alone.
Hmm.
And and that's why he started punching me on my face badly again.
Hmm.
And I thought, I will not be able to handle the situation because he wasn't stopping at all. The only thing that I could do was I quickly took my phone and I messaged my neighbor, please help me. These were the only words that I wrote. Please help me. It's urgent.
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time, I also sent a voice message to my mom. And my mom, after hearing the voice message, she sensed that something is wrong. So she came alone because my daughter was there at home. My daughter was left at home with my father, and she came alone and came to our house. She was knocking the door, ringing the doorbell, but this man, so we had a safety door as well. He opened the main door, and when he saw that it's mom standing outside, he was not ready to open the safety door. And then when my mom understood that this is a situation that she also can't handle, she then went back home, got my father. My father went to the police chowki, got the cops, and all of them came home. And the police cops also had to try really hard to make him open the door. Finally, he opened the door, and then we had to go to the police station. We filed, we filed a complaint, but it wasn't an FIR or anything. They just took an NOC, and I went to my parents' place, and we left him there.
So
One
was
thing.
he admitted to the hospital, psychiatric
No,
hospital?
no,
No?
no, no, no. He wasn't. And because there was no one from his side also to take up the responsibility, probably that could have been the reason. But, the lady constable clearly wanted me to take up the responsibility. And when I said this is not something that I would do, my parents would definitely not do it, and neither are they going to let me do it. So then when they realized that it would be on their shoulders, probably they wanted to shrug this off. Hence, they decided to drop him back home.
So
Yeah.
how did, this was the end of your relationship with him? This
No,
was the
no,
last?
this wasn't the end of it.
No?
We still continued for around 2 years after this.
Oh.
So I got in touch with one of his friends
Hmm.
who decided to rescue him from the rented apartment, took him back to their place,
Hmm.
and he started he started staying with them. After 2 days, they called me up and they told me that, we observed him for 2 days. He is not smoking up from the last 2 days. He has promised us he will be a changed man. The only condition that he has is that he will not come back to Mumbai ever.
Hmm.
You will have to go back to Kerala with your daughter and settle down there.
So you
We,
went along with him to Kerala.
yes, yes.
For 2 years you were there in
For two
Kerala
years
with
I was
him.
there with him as well as his parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I took my daughter along with me. We both went to Kerala with him. We moved him safely to Kerala. As he had promised, he stayed out of weed for 1.5 months. Um, because we had come from Mumbai, we had around 7 days of quarantine, 7 to 10 days of quarantine that we had to follow. Uh, so there were withdrawal symptoms, but he wasn't being violent at all. He, he was very calm. He was very silent. He used to be in his own thoughts. Um, so things had changed before my eyes for the first 1.5 months. So I thought, okay, he's now a changed man. The only thing that, there were three things that always used to be a concern. One was that he was never ready to take up a job.
Hmm.
and contribute towards the family expenses.
Hmm.
Second was his addiction. And
Hmm.
third, obviously, was his aggressive nature.
Hmm.
Now, out of these three things, two things, that is one, giving up his smoking,
Hmm.
and the second was aggression. These things had reduced a lot in the
Hmm.
first 1.5, 2 months after we moved to Kerala.
Hmm.
So I thought, okay, now the only thing is job. We started finding jobs for him, and every
Hmm.
time a job opportunity used to come, he used to make some or the other reasons of not taking it up, or he used to tell me, I got rejected
Hmm.
because of these reasons, because of these reasons. And I used to believe him every time. After each failed opportunity, um, he used to come up with a new plan.
Hmm.
I want to do this, I want to do that. So the last plan that he made before me moving out of his house was that he wants to go to the UK,
Hmm.
because and he was a nurse by profession.
Hmm.
So UK had a lot of opportunities being opened up for the for male as well as female nurses.
Hmm.
But he had to clear the IELTS exam. So he told me, I want to clear the IELTS exam, so I will enroll me for an IELTS course.
Hmm.
I said, okay. I didn't want to leave any stone unturned.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I still, somehow managed to arrange for the course fee. I
Hmm.
enrolled him for the course. 2 days he must have gone. 3 days after the course, he started bunking. I decided to call up someone from the institute. I checked with them,
Hmm.
uh, and they told me that no, Shan is not coming from the past 4 5 days for the class. So
Hmm.
I said, okay. And that's when I realized that from the past 5 days, he has not been going for the class and he has been bunking.
Hmm.
And when he came back in the evening, I confronted him and I asked him,
So
yeah,
with this, you moved out of his house and you came back to Mumbai, right?
the closure happened because of one major incident, which was, I was on my office phone call,
Hmm.
and I was doing an office meeting and I had to record the meeting. I was attending the meeting on my laptop and I had to record the meeting on my phone,
Hmm.
because I had to make, a report.
Hmm.
And he didn't have a phone at that time. He had lost his phone, or his phone was under repair or something. And so he used to call his friends using my phone.
Hmm.
Um, and he wanted to use my phone at that very minute. And then I told him, I cannot be giving you my phone right now because I am using it
Hmm.
for my official purposes. And it is my office working hours. And
Hmm.
it is my phone. So, and when I refused to give him my phone, a fight broke out between us where I had to disconnect my office call abruptly,
Hmm.
because he started abusing me while
Hmm.
I was on the call,
Hmm.
and he spat on my face.
Hmm.
And when he spat on my face, that was when I realized that this was the worst thing that I could endure.
Hmm.
I have suffered everything, your blows, bruises, punches, kicks, everything. But
Hmm.
when he spat on my face, that felt to be the most disrespectful act ever.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then when that happened, I spat back on him. Because there was no one at home, even I was scared.
Hmm.
And then I said, take the phone, call whoever you want to call, and just get out from this house.
Hmm.
And he took the phone, he called whoever he had to, he left the house. And then when he came back in the evening, again, we continued the fight. When I was still not forgiving him or talking to him, he then asked me, okay, so does this mean that you are leaving the house and going with with our daughter? I said, yes, I have decided this time I am for sure going with my daughter to my parents. And when I said this, immediately he tells me, do you remember something that I told you a couple of days back? If you do this, I'm going to kill you. And the next thing that he said shook me up. He told me, so you have two options. I can kill you in front of our daughter,
Hmm.
and I can kill you just without her. So what do you want me to do? Do you
Hmm.
want your daughter to witness? Do you want our daughter to witness this? Do you want our daughter to be subjected to this kind of mental torture? If you want this to happen, fine, I'll do it. If
Hmm.
you don't want this to happen, then you cannot leave this house.
Hmm.
So this was the kind of threat that he gave me, and I was completely shaken up. I immediately messaged his mom. So it was a two-storied house.
Hmm.
We were living on the upper floor, and his parents used to stay on the ground floor.
Hmm.
I immediately messaged his mom and I told her that he's telling me that he's going to kill me. So she comes running upstairs, and then she rescues me and my daughter.
Hmm.
She has a fight with the son, and then she takes me and my daughter along with her to her room, and
Hmm.
we spent the night in her room.
Hmm.
Next day morning, when he goes out, we pack up everything. I pack all my things in whatever bags I could.
So, how did it affect your mental health? And of course, it must have affected your daughter also. So, did you people go and seek therapy? Like, how did all this affect your mental health?
Yeah. So my mental health, to be very honest, the minute I came out of that house, and the minute I came back to my parents, to my own house, I had a huge feeling of liberation,
Hmm.
um, relief,
Hmm.
and satisfaction. Um, People often think that, to come out of a marriage
Hmm.
will be depressing, but
Hmm.
trust me, after I came out of it, it wasn't depressing for me at all, because it was a huge relief for me. Because when I was in the relation, when I was into 6.5 years of that marriage, towards the end,
Hmm.
when things became very bad,
Hmm.
when there was no love left in my heart for him,
Hmm.
uh, we used to sleep separately in two
Hmm.
different bedrooms,
Hmm.
because there was no love that I had for him towards the end when things became really bad.
Hmm.
During that phase, I hardly used to share anything with anyone.
Hmm.
I didn't have any friends at that point of time.
Hmm.
Uh, I didn't have my relatives at that point of time with whom I could share things freely.
Hmm.
Because I was a single child, I had no siblings with
Hmm.
whom I could share this freely. Because
Hmm.
it was a love marriage, and because it was my decision to get married to him
Hmm.
and to continue to be in this relation,
Hmm.
even after multiple instances of abuse or of whatever
Hmm.
instances had happened. Even after that, I decided to continue in that. So I could not have even complained or thought about complaining to my parents about any of these
Hmm.
things that had happened. Not that they weren't supportive, they were very supportive, and at any given point of time, I knew that their doors were always open for me.
Hmm.
But in my mind, these were the things that were these were the thoughts that were constantly revolving.
Hmm.
This was my decision, so how I won't be able to go back to
So
them.
you were doing everything to make the relationship work actually. Hmm.
Exactly, yes. So to be very honest, at that time, towards the end, when things were really bad, I started feeling, the only way out of this situation is his death. I couldn't have done anything myself to kill him. I am not that kind of person. But if he dies by something, when he goes out on his bike, if he meets with an accident and he dies, that is the only way out of this problem. That is the only way out of this life. This was my thought. That was how helpless I was. Because for me, walking out of that marriage was not at all an option. Not at all option in the sense, not at all a choice that I gave to myself.
Perhaps you
So,
lacked strength also.
yes, yes. So, when I was finally able to do it, and when I was out of that place, out of that toxicity,
Hmm.
it was a big relief for me. More than being depressed, I was being happy.
Hmm.
And the same holds true even for my daughter.
Hmm.
When we came back, my couple of my good friends had come to meet us, to talk to us. And when they spoke to my daughter, they wanted to know if she's okay.
Hmm.
And they asked her, okay, if you want to go back, see your father, what do you want to do? She didn't even wait, or she didn't even look at me to reply to them. She
Hmm.
immediately said, no, I'm not missing him. I don't want to see his face ever.
Hmm.
I don't want to go back to him. He is not my father.
Hmm. How old was
This,
she?
she was 5 years old then.
Mhm. Hmm.
She started telling them that, she used to call him Papi. So
Hmm.
she used to tell them that Papi beats up mom very badly.
Hmm.
And I don't want my mom to be facing that again. So I will not go there. I will not let my mom also go.
Hmm.
These were her dialogues. And from then until now, not even a single day has she asked for her father.
Hmm.
So that was my strength.
Are you giving her therapy? Is she needing some therapy, or are you taking some therapy or no?
I didn't have to take any therapy, fortunately, but for my daughter, I had to, because she also started showing those violent streaks,
Hmm.
um, pulling out her hair, or screaming on top of her voice,
Hmm.
very adamant, very stubborn,
Hmm.
not following other people's instructions. And there were signs of aggression even
Hmm.
in her behavior,
Hmm.
immediately after coming back from there. So we had to
Hmm.
put her to therapy for a couple of months,
Hmm.
and we continued the therapy for her for around 7 to 8 months.
Hmm.
And after that, now she is finally okay.
Hmm. So, Nimisha, your story, like, it has shaken me like anything. So, what message would you like to share with survivors who are still struggling to heal?
Yeah. So, one thing that I want to tell is, when I was in this situation a couple of years back, I
Hmm.
always used to think, okay, what if I walk out of this marriage? What
Hmm.
is going to be my life after this marriage? There'll be nothing. There'll be no one. I'll be all alone.
Hmm.
How will I take care of my daughter? How will I manage everything by myself?
Hmm.
And how will the society look up on me? These were my concerns,
Hmm.
which had stopped me then from
Hmm.
taking a bold decision. But because of the circumstance, I did it. And after doing it is when I realize that I should have done this years back. But nevertheless, even if I could do it now, the only message that I have to give, to people, to women who are in the same situation as I am in, please, please do not think about how difficult your life will be. In fact, it's going to be even more colorful. It's going to be even more happy. Um, and it's going to be very peaceful, very safe. You will not have to worry about, you know, in fact, every minute that I spent during my
Was lived
marriage
in fear.
was lived in fear. Yes.
Hmm.
Uh, even while I'm at sleep, I always
Hmm.
had this sense of fear in me. Okay, is he now going to come and slap
Hmm.
me? Is he now going to come and wake me up? Because there were instances when he has woken me up from sleep and slapped me. So
Hmm.
I always had that fear every night I went to sleep. So when you come out of this abusive relation, you will feel a different sense of liberation. You will be so much at peace. You will have more strength to live your life the way you want.
Hmm.
That is even more important, because when you're in an abusive relation, you are always under other people's control.
Hmm.
You always have to live life according to what they want, and
Hmm.
they never take into consideration what you want. They never take into consideration what you have to do in your life. So when you're out of it, you understand the importance of loving yourself. You understand the importance of living life on your own terms.
Hmm.
I think even, the first instance itself should be the very moment when you decide that this is the end of it, because you cannot ever give anybody anybody the right to take advantage of your body, or to control you in any way. I regret that I couldn't do it at the very first instance, and I still stuck around for 6.5, 7 years. Hence, I want to give this message to everyone out there that never consider this, or never drag the relation to such an extent where you finally decide, when you're completely mentally devastated, you decide that you cannot survive any longer, because that is when women then take drastic steps like ending up their lives.
Thank you, Nimisha, for sharing your journey.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for having me over. uh, I consider this to be, uh, you know my pleasure to be here, to be able to share my experiences, my learnings, with everyone, with you. Uh, and I hope this is a learning for everyone. I hope everybody, um, you know, takes this um, as a learning for themselves, and I hope this helps them in some or the other way.
Thanks a lot, Nimisha.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Zindagi Matters, where life meets hope. A mental health podcast by Swayam Foundation.